So with that, if staff is ready to call the roll, I will call this Ways and Means meeting to order. Let's call the roll.
Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson. Assemblyman Frierson.
Here.
Assemblywoman Gorlow.
Here.
Assemblyman Hafen.
Here.
Assemblywoman Haughey.
Here.
Assemblyman Levitt.
Here.
Assemblywoman Miller.
Here.
Assemblywoman Monroe Moreno.
Here.
Assemblywoman Peters.
Here.
Assemblyman Roberts.
Here.
Assemblywoman Titus.
Here.
Assemblywoman Tolles.
Here.
Assemblyman Watts.
Here.
Chair Carlton.
And I am here. So committee members, this morning, we're going to start with the work session. We're going to process out some of the bills that we've heard over the last couple meetings. We like to hear them and then keep them moving as much as possible. My plan is usually that if there is not an issue or we've resolved any issues, that the meeting after the hearing, that we try to keep it moving, get it back down to the floor so that it can get to the other house if it's possible. Some bills we can do that with, others we have to hold on to until it's the appropriate time to, as one of our former fiscal persons used to say, throw it over the fence. So, we'll be work sessioning some bills today, and I'm going to give you a list right now, but always keep in your mind what you've just recently heard will probably be here. So, we're going to work session AB 40, 121, 147, 166, 188, 202, and 452. So you have your list. Ms. Kaufman will walk us through these bills. They should be in your memory. And then we'll proceed from there, and that way we've got all our folks here, we can get the work session done, and then we will go to hearing after that. So with that, Ms. Kaufman, I will turn it over to you as soon as you are ready.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first bill on the agenda is AB 40 as amended. This bill expands the definition of operator and storage tank. The bill requires that before a storage tank is eligible for the coverage of certain costs from the Fund for Cleanup of Discharge and Petroleum, the operator must, unless certain requirements are met, demonstrate that the storage tank is being monitored for a discharge and a discharge has not occurred. The fiscal impact related to this, with regards to fiscal impact, it changes the total amount paid from the Fund for Cleanup Discharge of Petroleum in one fiscal year for discharges for 2 or more storage tanks under the control of any one operator from $1,900,000 to $1,950,000 for both cleanup and for damages. During the hearing that was held on April 20th, Greg Lovato from the Department of Natural Resources, the Administrator of Environmental Protection, had indicated that the legislation was not expected to reduce the amounts that would otherwise have gone to the Highway Fund or impact the proposed maximum $500,000 amount available to transfer to support the costs of preparing the annual report for greenhouse gases in AB 452. There was a conceptual amendment that was provided on this. The purpose of the amendment was to clarify that the Board of Review Claims may approve additional $1 million allotments for a site to address discharge of petroleum rather than for each individual storage tank. And with that, Madam Chair, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kaufman, and I'll remind the committee, in my notes I have, there was no support, no opposition, no neutral. The bill did come out of Natural Resources. We would want to encapsulate this amendment. I believe it clarifies some of the issues that needed to be dealt with. So with that, are there any questions or comments from committee members on Assembly Bill 40? Seeing none, I have to make sure I always I have to make sure I do the correct motion because some of these can be tricky. Okay, so the motion on this would be an amend and do pass as amended, because it's been amended once. So with that, I'll accept a motion from Assemblyman Watts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Move to amend and do pass as amended.
I have a motion from Mr. Watts, a second from Assemblyman Hafen. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, passes unanimously of the members present. Mr. Watts, I'm going to ask you to take care of that floor statement, please. All righty. Hey, our first bill out of Ways and Means. We are on a roll. Okay. The next bill we have, Ms. Kaufman, is Assembly Bill 121.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 121, as amended, requires the Secretary of State to allow the effective absentee system for elections to be used by an elector with a disability to register to vote, and a registered voter with a disability to apply for and cast absent ballots. The measure requires the system of approved electronic transmissions to allow such an elector or registered voter to provide his or her digital or electronic signature on any document or other materials that is necessary for the elector to register to vote, for the registered voter to apply for and cast a ballot. In terms of the fiscal impact, the Secretary of State provided a fiscal note of $75,000 per fiscal year in order to provide for an outreach campaign. The presenter on this bill was Assemblywoman Cohen, and Assemblywoman Cohen, and the Secretary of State provided testimony regarding the fiscal impact, indicating that a marketing campaign would be needed to reach out to the voters impacted by the legislation, as well as to ensure that the office is communicating with security of the voting system to ensure a level of confidence and comfort among the citizens. This does not appear to be a requirement of the particular legislation. There were two individuals who were in support of this bill, Stephen Cohen and Dora Lee Martinez, who is from the Nevada Disability Coalition.
Committee members, are there any questions on this bill? There was a very thorough discussion. This is a program that already exists in the office. It's putting it into statute and making sure that we protect voting rights of this particular population. Assemblyman Lovett.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, is the fiscal note going to be attached to this bill or not? It seems there was some discussion about the necessity of that.
It's not the chair's intention to recognize the fiscal note at this time.
Thank you.
I'm not sure if I used the correct term, Ms. Kaufman. I always want to make sure that I say it correctly, legally.
Madam Chair, the committee had the opportunity to provide an appropriation within the bill to identify any costs related to the fiscal note. However, it did not appear that the amounts in the fiscal note were a requirement of the legislation.
Thank you. It's not a requirement of the, I always have to go back to my terms, but the chair does not intend to recognize that need at this time. So any other questions from any other committee members at this time? So the motion on this particular bill would be a do pass as amended, because it had already been amended in the policy committee. So with that, I have a motion from Speaker Frierson, a second from Ms. Howdigy. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Nay. I have Dr. Titus in opposition. sorry. Oh, yes, I always forget that I have to follow up on that. Let me make my notes. And Assemblywoman Cohen is available. I would be more than happy to have her handle the floor statement of this, of her bill on the floor. So Assemblywoman Cohen, you'll have the floor statement. Okay?
Thank you, Chair.
You're very welcome. So with that, committee members, moving on to the next bill, Assembly Bill 147.
Madam Chair, Assembly Bill 147 authorizes a Board of County Commissioners to create the Office of County Counsel to perform many of the non-criminal duties otherwise assigned to the District Attorney. This bill includes a county counsel among other officers in which the Attorney General is required to give written opinions. The presenter for this bill was Assemblywoman Nguyen, and the Attorney General's office provided testimony confirming on the record that legislation would not expand the scope of services provided by the Attorney General's office, but would allow the office to bill the Office of County Counsel for any Attorney General opinions requested, similar to existing processes with county district attorneys.
Thank you very much. This was one of those bills that when you pull it into Ways and Means, you pull it out of abundance of caution, because you want to make sure you have a thorough conversation of what the fiscal impact might be, not knowing whether the policy committee really addressed it, and making sure that we get on the record where the fiscal impact will actually lie. So with that, committee members, are there any questions on Assembly Bill 147 at this time? Not seeing any questions. I believe this would this would just be a do pass for us. Correct, Ms. Kaufman?
Madam Chair, that is correct. There is no amendment on the original bill.
Okay. So the chair would accept a motion to do pass AB 147 from Speaker Frierson. And a second from Ms. Medinas-Thompson. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Nay. One nay from Dr. Titus. And this is Ms. Nguyen's bill, so we'll be happy to hand it back to her and have her take care of the floor statement. And I'll be happy to back her up if there's a necessity to do so. With that, we can go to Assembly Bill 166.
Madam Chair, Assembly Bill 166 requires a person, committee for professional political action, political party, or committee sponsor by a political party that expends more than $100 for purposes of financing a communication through text messages that advocates express the election or defeat of a clearly identified candidate or group of candidates, or solicit a combination to disclose in the text message the name of the person, committee or political action, political party or committee sponsored by the political party that paid for the communication. This bill was presented by Assemblyman Hafen. The Secretary of State testified that the fiscal impact is for enforcement, not implementation, and that the office would need a part-time employee to address inquiries related to complaints, as well as a part-time investigator to reach compliance, or to research complaints, excuse me. The fiscal impact indicated that it was not necessary to implement the bill, but rather to supplement the efforts currently performed by the office. And there were 0 individuals in support, opposition, or neutral on this bill.
So with that, committee members, we don't believe that the fiscal note that's attached to this for the personnel is absolutely necessary to implement this bill. So the chair, I believe this would be a do pass also. It came to us in its original form. Are there any questions or comments from the committee members on this bill at this time? Not seeing any, the chair would accept a motion to do pass AB 166. I'll take the motion from Mr. Roberts, the second from Ms. Monroe Moreno. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Hearing no opposition, passes unanimously of the members present. Mr. Hafen, as a member of the committee, we're just going to hand this bill right back to you, okay? You're very welcome. So with that, Assembly Bill 188, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 188, as amended, abolishes the Commission on Special License Plates and transfers its duties and approval procedures to the Department of Motor Vehicles. This bill requires that the legislative auditor compile and submit certain reports for charitable organizations that receive certain fees to the Department of Motor Vehicles and directs the Legislative Council Bureau for transmittal to the legislature or legislative session if applicable. The individual who testified on this bill was Sean Sever from the DMV. The committee recognized that there may be a fiscal impact to the audit division of the Legislative Council Bureau, but in discussion with this bill, the committee had indicated that the overall impact from pending legislation this session may need to be considered in regards to the resources available.
So with that, committee members, are there any questions? This would be a do pass as amended, and having the conversation about all the different impacts to our audit division. We would not propose to put a position into this bill, but we will now put this on the list of other duties that could possibly be given to our auditor. And when the time comes to do the LCB budget, we would address it at that time. But we've now established a record. So with that, are there any questions or comments on Assembly Bill 188? Not seeing any, I would take a motion to do pass as amended, Assembly Bill 188. I have a motion from Ms. Benitez Thompson, a second from Mr. Watts, or Mr. Levitt? Oh, everybody wants to second this one. Boy, everybody wants to get rid of this commission the same way I do. I'll take a motion from Majority Leader Benitez Thompson, a second from Minority Leader Dr. Titus. Any questions or comments on the motion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Passes unanimously of the members present. I'll hand this back to the chair of G&I to handle on the floor. Okay. It's only taken me half my career, but we're finally getting rid of this thing. Okay. There we go. Assembly Bill 202. Ms. Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 202, as amended, provides that a qualified organization that operates charitable lotteries or charitable games offering prizes valued at less than $100,000 annually must register and pay a fee to the Nevada Gaming Control Board once per year prior to operating a lottery or game. The fee, which is to be established in regulation adopted by the Nevada Gaming Commission, must not exceed $10 per year. The fiscal note on this, or the fiscal impact related to that, is the Gaming Control Board has identified a loss of approximately $8,000 per year in revenue as a result of reducing the per application fee from $25 to an annual fee of $10. And this would impact the general fund. The presenter on this bill was Assemblyman Yeager. There was one individual who was in support of this bill, Andrew Lepelbet, and there are no required or suggested amendments on this bill.
Thank you very much, committee members. If you remember, we had gone to recognize the Gaming Control Board in the hearing on that bill, but unfortunately, they were not able to get through, but I did receive a message afterwards that there were no serious concerns from the Gaming Control Board, so I just wanted to make sure that I put that on the record. There was some technology issues, and they volunteered to come back in, but it was later in the evening, and they had just sent me the message, so I believe the amount that's associated with this bill is not significant enough to cause them an issue. So with that, this is a first reprint, so this would also be a due pass as amended. Any questions or comments from the committee on Assembly Bill 202? Not seeing any, so with that, I would accept a motion to do pass as amended from Ms. Benitez Thompson, a second from Ms. Howdigy. Any questions or comments on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Hearing none, passes unanimously of the members present. I'll go ahead and hand this one back to Chair Yeager, since he brought it in, and take it back out to the floor, okay? And committee members, that brings us to our last bill for work session this morning. Ms. Kaufman, Assembly Bill 452, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Assembly Bill 452 relates to the environmental protection, requiring certain agencies and entities to submit information to the State Department of Conservation and Natural Resources for purposes of annual report that the department is required to prepare on greenhouse gases. This bill also authorizes money in the account for the management of air quality to be expended to pay for the costs of preparing the annual report on greenhouse gases, requiring a transfer of certain monies from the Fund for Cleaning Up Discharge of Petroleum to the account for management of air quality. With regards to the fiscal impact, existing law creates the Fund for Cleanup and Discharge of Petroleum and provides that the balance of the funds at the end of the fiscal year is estimated to be at $7.5 million or more. The Department of Motor Vehicles must transfer the balance, which exceeds $7.5 million, to the account established in the Highway Fund for the construction or construction, reconstruction, or improvement and maintenance of roads. Section 3 of the bill requires that the amount in excess of the funds up to $500,000 as determined by the Department of Conservation and Natural Resources be transferred instead to the account for the management of air quality. The money transferred to the account for management of air quality may be used only to pay for the costs of preparing an annual report for greenhouse gases. Any remaining excess in the Fund for Cleaning Up the Discharge of Petroleum must be transferred to the account established in the State Highway Fund for construction, reconstruction, improvement, and maintenance of public roads. This is a budget implementation bill. In the executive budget, it recommends the addition of one environmental scientist position and associated costs in the DCNR Division of Administrative Protection air quality budget beginning in fiscal years 22 to support the efforts associated with preparing the annual report on greenhouse gases. The bill would allow up to $500,000 per year in funds transferred from the Fund for Cleaning Up Discharge of Petroleum to this account for the management of air quality to support the costs of preparing the annual greenhouse gas, including the licensing, and including the position. The bill was presented by Greg Lovato, who's the Division Administrator of Environmental Protection. There were several individuals who testified in support. The Nevada Conservation League supported this, as well as Clark County, the City of Las Vegas. There was one individual who testified in neutral, and that was Maylene Nguyen from the Department of Transportation.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kaufman. Committee members, are there any questions on Assembly Bill 452, which has not been amended, so it would be a due pass out of this committee, and it is a budget implementation bill. Is there a question, Mr. Roberts? Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, the way I understand what this bill does is basically it will redirect $500,000 from the highway fund to this program, correct? Or actually 500,000 less will go to the highway fund than what is normally allocated.
Madam Chair, that is correct. It is up to 500,000, and in the actual executive budget, the redirection for fiscal year 2022 is $91,883, and in 2023, it's $121,322.
Thank you for the question, Madam Chair, and thank you for the answer. It just concerns that we've already cut the highway fund down during a special session, and any further is just, it's an issue for me. Thank you.
So, but this is and I just want to make sure that I'm remembering correctly. This is a fund that is paid into for cleaning up discharges, and there's never any guarantee that those dollars are actually ever going to go into that fund because we don't know what discharges are going to be available. So it's not just this impact. In general, if everybody did everything perfectly, there would be no money going into this because there would be no discharges. So I understand where you're coming from, but I also believe the nexus is here for these dollars to be used for this particular purpose in conjunction with this moving forward. So I am not as concerned about the highway fund as I am about the work that will be done encapsulated in this bill. So we all have to make tough decisions on which way we want to go, and we have to prioritize air quality over building a road. So, and that's in essence the viewpoint that I have on it right now. We need to be able to measure, monitor, and mitigate the issues that are going on, and without the dollars, that will not be able to happen. So, but I do understand the highway fund. We always try to be very protective of it, but we also know there's other work to be done in the state. Dr. Titus.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just for clarification, it's my understanding that this doesn't go to any mitigation and actually just goes to yet another study. So I too have concerns because what we're doing is taking it out of the petroleum fund, which actually those funds really do go to mitigation and clean up, cleaning that from the petroleum cleanup account, which actually does have some function of actual cleanup versus yet another air quality study, which isn't about mitigation. So unfortunately, I'll just say it now so I don't have to say it when we take the vote that I'm going to be a no on this one. Thank you.
And I don't want to parse words with you, Dr. Titus. I don't believe that that's appropriate, but I believe when we talk about measuring greenhouse gases and being able to do our work moving forward, I'll just leave it at that. We have a difference in what we see as the final purpose on this would be. So with that, committee members, this bill was not amended. It is a budget implementation bill, so the motion on this bill would be a do pass. So with that, the chair would accept a motion to do pass Assembly Bill 452 from Assemblyman Watts, and a second from Ms. Peters. Any questions or comments on the motion? Not seeing any. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. And those in opposition? So I need the folks in opposition to raise their hands. It makes it much easier. So I have Dr. Titus, Assemblyman Hafen, Assemblyman Tolles, Assemblyman Lovett, and Assemblyman Roberts in opposition. And Assemblywoman Benitez Thompson in opposition. Okay. The motion does pass. And Mr. Watts, I'll give this to you for the floor statement. And I'll back you up if need be. Alrighty, so with that, our work session's done. You've sent some bills to the floor, keeping things moving. So let's take a quick second here, and we'll switch over to the hearing phase of the meeting. And let's give staff a chance to pull everything together, and myself, and we'll begin in just a moment. With that, committee members, we did have 3 bills listed for today, but Assembly Bill 357, we will not be addressing. There are still a couple of issues that need to have some further conversation before we bring the conversation into the committee room. So we will not be addressing Assembly Bill 357 today. It will be rolled to a future agenda. I cannot say which one. As soon as the parties are ready, it's just much better to have everyone come in understanding each other. So with that, the next bill on our agenda is Assembly Bill 365. And I believe that is Ms. Peters. We'll give her a moment to get to the testimony table.
Thank you, Chair.
Good morning, Assemblywoman Peters, please proceed. Assembly Bill 365.
Good morning, Chair and committee members. For the record, I am Sarah Peters, representing Assembly District 24 in Reno. I'm here to present Assembly Bill 365 for your consideration. Generally, this bill offers a mechanism for the state to receive and review actions related to non-federally protected employee complaints. These can be a variety of issues that could result in toxic work culture. These toxic work culture issues are known to impact diversity of retained employees, and ultimately my goal of this legislation is to develop a culture of human resource evaluation that looks at potentially toxic implicit bias and how we can address them with the implementation of good policy and trainings. AB 365 looks to capture all state employees, including those on executive branch agencies, boards and commissions, and the legislative and judicial branches. As introduced, the bill received $0 fiscal notes from most state entities, with the exception of the Administrative Office of the Courts and the State Board of Cosmetology. Upon follow-up discussion with the Administrative Office of the Courts, it was determined that the intent of the language to capture state employees was not clear for the judicial branch section of this bill. The proposed amendment, as developed by their staff, is to clarify this section of the bill. Additionally, with this amendment, the Administrative Office of the Courts has said that they would be able to remove the fiscal note. Today, Todd Myler and John McCormick are on the committee's Zoom to testify on the amendment and fiscal note.
Thank you very much, Ms. Peters. Well done. Gentlemen?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is John McCormick. I'm the Assistant Court Administrator in court.
Mr. McCormick, if you could get closer to the microphone, please. We're having a hard time hearing you. Thank you.
I apologize. Sorry, there, that should be better. I had the wrong setting. I apologize. I will start over. John McCormick for the record. Upon initially reviewing this bill, we read requiring the judicial branch as indicated to require that the AOC would collect the contemplated complaints from all the courts in the state. We obviously discussed with the sponsor, and she indicated that it was her intent to capture only state employees, so those employees working for the appellate courts, so the Supreme Court, the Court of Appeals, the Administrative Office of the Courts, and the Law Library. And so we developed the amendment that I believe is on Nellis that clarifies that this requirement only applies to those sort of in-house employees. And with that amendment, we will be able to remove our fiscal note.
Thank you very much. Any other statements from your other presenters? I believe that I think that addresses everything. Ms. Peters, yes?
Yes, thank you. I did not reach out to the State Board of Cosmetology. Their fiscal note was $1,029 per year, and really is not something that we fund out of our general fund dollars. So I would be happy to reach out to them if it is necessitated, but
Well, just have a conversation with them so they understand where you're going. They may have misunderstood the intent to begin with, so please make sure it's clear so that they understand what their responsibilities are. But that is not general fund dollars. And it is actually less than the $2,000 threshold that would have had it pulled into Ways and Means, so not a problem there. So with that, committee members, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Peters at this time? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Peters, good job getting everyone together to have a nice, clear record. So with that, this is the public hearing on Assembly Bill 365. We will open it up for support, opposition, and neutral. So with that, broadcast services, please, if you could go to the phone lines for anyone in support of Assembly Bill 365.
To testify in support of AB 365, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the testimony line is open and working. However, we have no one to testify in support of AB 365.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone in opposition, please?
To testify in opposition to AB 365, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the testimony line is open and working. However, we have no callers at this time.
Thank you very much, broadcast services. If we could open up the lines for neutral, please.
To testify in neutral on AB 365, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the testimony line is open and working. However, we have no one to testify in neutral on AB 365.
Thank you very much. So we will go ahead. I don't believe Ms. Peters would have any closing comments. So with that, we will go ahead and close the hearing on Assembly Bill 365. Thank you very much, Ms. Peters. I'm going to have you give lessons on how to do a bill in Ways and Means. So with that, committee members, we can go ahead and open up the hearing on Assembly Bill 404. I believe we have Ms. Bordelin available.
Thank you, Chair and Committee. Good morning. Bailey Bordelin for the record, representing the Nevada Coalition of Legal Service Providers. AB 404 before you is a bill relating to domestic violence protection orders. It does two things. The first piece is related to jurisdiction of where you can file for a protection order to fix some issues where we've had applicants unable to clearly file in the jurisdiction that's most appropriate for them. So it adds some language that will help with that. And then Section 3 is the one that has a fiscal note on it. Section 3 provides statutory authority for when a victim of domestic violence feels that it would be a safety threat. They need to withhold their address when applying for the protection order so that that address that is confidential is not then served upon the opposing party, and that making the situation more dangerous. So this is a problem that the domestic violence and legal community has been struggling with for a long time of what the best way to do that is. What you see before you reflects what has been created in practice out of necessity in a statewide form that is being used. So the amendment before you on Nellis makes a very small clarifying change to changing any appropriate law enforcement agency to any authorized criminal justice agency. And with that language change, the Department of Public Safety has informed me that they would be able to remove their fiscal note because that would match the practice that we have in place now.
And thank you very much. Are there questions of Ms. Bordelin at this time? And do we have, and I apologize, managing Nellis and everything else, do we actually have a written document from them saying the fiscal note is removed?
Bailey Bordelin for the record. In my conversations, they said if this amendment was adopted, they would submit a new fiscal note of 0.
Okay, and unfortunately, I do not have the amendment, so.
It should be on Nellis.
Nellis and I sometimes don't agree. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. So with that, committee members, are there any questions of Ms. Borland at this time? Not seeing any. Do you have any other presenters for today? No? All right.
We're good.
So with that, committee members, we will have to get the amendment put into the appropriate form and be brought back to the committee for discussion, and then we would move forward from there. So that would be a future conversation, but thank you for putting that on the record, and we'll make, it's always good if we have something in writing that saying from that agency, if this amendment is adopted, then we would do this. That way we've got a confirmation from them. We could adopt the amendment and something could change. Stranger things have happened in this building. So we'll work on that and get it straightened out, and then we'll go from there. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So with that, committee members, seeing no questions or comments, I believe we can go to the phone lines for those who would be in support of Assembly Bill 404.
To testify in support on AB 404, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Caller with the last 3 digits, 540. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin. Caller, you are unmuted on our end. Is it possible that your phone is on mute?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my apologies about that. Good morning, Chair Carlton and members of the committee. For the name, my name is Serena Evans, spelled SERENAEVANS, and I'm the policy specialist for the Nevada Coalition to End Domestic and Sexual Violence. Just going to keep it brief and say that this policy is long overdue and is necessary to make sure that victim survivors are safe throughout our state. And it's time that Nevada shows that their safety is paramount. So we urge your support and passage of AB 404. Thank you so much.
And thank you very much. Broadcast Services, do we have anyone else in support, please?
Caller with the last 3 digits, 747. Please slowly state and spell your name for the record. You will have 2 minutes and may begin.
Hi, Liz Ortenberger, LIZORTENBURGER. I'm the CEO for SafeNest, large domestic violence agency in Clark County. We support over 5,000 victims a year filing TPOs and ETPOs, and we strongly support this legislative change. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Broadcast Services, do we have anyone else in support of the bill?
Chair, the testimony line is open and working. However, we have no one left to testify in support of AB 404.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone in opposition of AB 404?
To testify in opposition to AB 404, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the testimony line is open and working. However, we have no one to testify in opposition to AB 404.
Thank you very much. Do we have anyone in neutral?
To testify in neutral on AB 404, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the testimony line is open and working. However, we have no one to testify in neutral on AB 404.
Thank you very much, Broadcast Services. So with that, I don't believe we need any closing comments on this particular piece of legislation. So we'll close the hearing on AB 404. We will work on the amendment and the following statement and bring it back to the committee at the appropriate time. So with that, committee members, whoops, wrong pile of folders. There we go. Okay, so with that, we have addressed the bills that we were going to accomplish today and a work session. Need to keep things moving so that they get to the floor. So with that, we can open it up for any public comment that would be available to the committee today. Broadcast Services, Do we have anyone wishing to make public comment before Ways and Means today?
Anyone wishing to make public comment, please press star 9 now to take your place in the queue. Chair, the public comment line is open and working. However, there is no one in the queue at this time.
Well, thank you very much, Broadcast Services. We appreciate all of your assistance and hanging tough with us in these evening meetings and extra Friday morning meetings. So committee members, have a nice weekend. I'm going to turn it over to the Chair of Commerce for a moment, who needs to make an announcement.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of Commerce and Labor who sit on this committee and those who might be listening in, please note that we will start at 11:15 this morning. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. You've received notice, Commerce and Labor, at 11:15 this morning. So with that, committee, we are adjourned.